Mike McCool here with the Royal Examiner, and today I am at the Rivermont Fire Department speaking with Raymond Cross. He's the battalion chief here on B shift, and I'm going to ask Raymond about a couple of events that's happened in the last few days. Raymond, you guys were in the water not too long ago. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we got a call the other day, January 28th at about 3 o'clock, for a couple kayakers stranded in the middle of the river, one of them being a 5-year-old child. We responded right away. Myself and Jared Lewis with Station 6 were the first on scene. And we did indeed find two males, one of them being a 5-year-old, the other one being a 26-year-old, stranded in the middle of the river, about 80 feet off the bank.
Yeah, I was reading your post on that. It seemed like awful cold to be out in the river kayaking and having a 5-year-old. What was were they prepared for that?
I believe they were just out for fun, trying to enjoy the river. The river was at flood stage. They did not have the proper gear on to be on the water. They weren't dressed for the environment. They do, however, make equipment for cold water.
Sure.
It's not uncommon to find people in the water in the wintertime.
Yeah, because most of the time you see people out in the river, they don't have their life vest on, and they're not prepared. It's not going to happen to me.
That's usually the normal when we get involved.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
usually if we're involved, it's because somebody had some oversight.
Well, tell us the outcome.
The outcome, Jared, and so we pretty much depleted our resources. We had a full response on it. Ended up with 2 medic units, a heavy squad from Station 1, 3 boats. We had all of our stations involved in it except for one. Jared was able, along with the assistance of the sheriff's office, to deploy the boat just upstream from the victims. We had a boat downstream and a boat heading upstream as backups. Jared was able to get the boat in the water with the assistance of the sheriff's office. Had to deploy by hand due to our location, and was able to come downstream and make rescue of the victims and had it to the shore pretty quick.
And they're all okay.
Everybody was okay. They were treated for hypothermia in the ambulance and released after that.
Yeah. It's a lot. You think, like you said, it's not going to happen to me, but it's so easy, just in a flash.
And I believe the way it sounds, getting a little bit of the backstory, they were again out enjoying the river and the boat capsized, unprepared.
Yeah.
One of the victims was able to swim to the shore and ran to the closest house, and that's how we were alerted.
Well, we see Jared here, and on his uniform it says firefighter medic, right?
Yes, sir.
Who's this gentleman sitting next to you, Jared?
This is George Lewis, lieutenant with the Warren County Fire and Rescue.
Okay.
Also his father.
Yeah. I was just curious if he was going to say anything about it. So normally your kids doesn't want to grow up and be a fireman, not if their dad's one, right? I mean.
Actually, he's 3rd generation firefighter. My dad was a volunteer firefighter, which got me involved. I went to work for Fairfax County in 1980, retired from Fairfax, and then came to work here in Warren County. And my son is following in my footsteps now.
Yeah. Well, Jared, is it true you just following in the footsteps, or is this something you really enjoy?
Both. I grew up around the fire department, and just from ever since I can remember, I loved being in the fire department.
I noticed when I've been around, there's a lot of little ones that start off and all sorts of things you can do, but it seems like we're fascinated with fire trucks.
I don't know, just something that's always
in your blood.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about this event. You were on the boat. You were the main guy in the boat going towards the victims.
Yes. So when we got there, the landowner said that there was a place upstream that we were able to launch our boat. Myself and my partner went up to where the landowner said and realized that we weren't going to be able to access it by backing the trailer down. Chief Cross was able to get some of the sheriff's officer deputies up to us, and we were able to actually pick the boat up off the trailer and carry it down the bank. Yeah. And from there, we were able to launch. And then we came, went downstream of them and just came upstream to them. Easier access to them.
So when you did that, what's the procedure like for those type of rescue things? Because you see things on television all the time. It's just really easy. Pop, pop, bang, go there. You got them. But there's a lot more involved in that.
a lot of communication between you and whoever's in the boat with you. I've been fortunate enough, I've been working with my partner, I think for now 2 years. So we're very well working together.
Yeah, people panic.
Yep. So, and with us being able to work together, our communication is, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And it went very smoothly.
So what kind of training have you had for this water rescue?
So I've been fortunate enough. My dad was an instructor with Rescue 3 International, which is one of the biggest swift water training agencies out there. So ever since I was 7 years old, I was able to be in the water with him, learning from him. And from there, I've progressed with my training to where I'm actually able to go in and help him teach classes now, and help teach classes here in the county to get all of our members up to, the boat operators level or just a swiftwater operations level.
We are the canoe capital of the Virginia, and I don't think people don't realize how much activity is on the river, especially during the summertime. Have you had these kinds of? How many of these incidents have you had before?
So a lot of our calls that we get are usually summertime calls that, people, their families are out on the river. They're supposed to take out, 4 o'clock. Well, here at 6 o'clock, they're not there yet.
Where are they?
And they don't understand how far it is. Yeah, by the road, it's only a mile, but by river, it's 7.
Right.
So that's a lot of our calls are that. But we do get these, heavy thunderstorms, these big snow melts that increase our call volume.
Yeah.
What was it? 5 years ago, we had all that summertime flooding
The springtime.
and did all the evacuations at North Fork, and so it's some years we'll have 5 or 6, and some years we'll have 20 or 30.
Yeah.
It just all depending.
So it's like what a fireman does. He's like a Boy Scout. He's just to be prepared.
Just to be ready. Yeah.
Right. George, you mentioned you were there in Fairfax. You've been doing a lot of training, like Jared said. So how do you train these your staff here to do these things other than just water rescue? I've just heard talking to other firemen that the training over the last, say, 20 or 30 years has really changed a lot. And it just, even to be a volunteer, it requires hundreds of hours of training.
Yeah, I remember back when I volunteered, it was, here's your gear, come to training once a week. If we get a fire, stay with this guy. And now volunteers come in and they have to have firefighter 1, firefighter 2, evac, hazmat, and a lot of folks like, well, I just want to be a volunteer. Well, that's what's required.
Yeah.
And
you can't even wash the truck, right?
and the way things have changed, people working outside of the areas they live in, a lot of the classes that they do for the volunteers are in evenings or on the weekends. And some of these folks aren't getting home from work till 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Right.
The only time they have to spend with their family is on the weekends, and they just don't have the time to put into it.
Yeah. We've seen that over the years, even here in Warren County. I mean, I can remember it was all volunteers for as long as I can remember, and then we changed from our farming community to a bedroom community, and like you just mentioned, we don't have anybody to volunteer. So it's great that we've had a lot of this. The staff has picked up in the training. The county's seen that we need this, and we've got quite a few departments around the county, and we got a great facility. So what kind of things are we going to be looking for as far as training you got coming up?
We have swiftwater rescue training classes coming up in the spring, swiftwater boat operation classes. Our priority right now is to get all of our folks at the boat stations certified in both swiftwater and swiftwater boat operations.
Right.
And we have those coming up in the springtime when water warms up a little bit.
I hear the radio going off there. We've increased our radios as well, haven't we, in the communications? Is that right, Raymond?
Yeah, we did. We did a large upgrade several years ago to our communications center and our radio system. And you see me looking on the wall. I was looking for a speaker volume to see if I could turn it down. Some of our facilities have that, and we have it in other rooms here, not in the office.
Yeah, it's like I said, we've gone times in years past, I can remember, you couldn't talk from one side of the county to the other, or you couldn't talk to the sheriff's office, couldn't call it, you had to go round robin to communicate.
And I think just like everything in society nowadays, our radios, technology's moving faster and faster and faster, and I think we'll be faced with some very significant radio upgrades.
Yeah.
You know, we still have areas in the county that are hard to receive, and which is pretty significant. You brought up a pretty good question a minute ago, talking about the complexity of this operation we were on. You know, a technical rescue as a swiftwater call like this is extremely taxing on resources. And there's a lot of action that goes into it and a lot of training. I think one thing that Jared failed to miss is George has spent the basis of his career, years and years, focused on just swiftwater rescue training. Very fortunate to have him come from Fairfax, and that's what he did at Fairfax. He was stationed at Great Falls for 18 years. 21 years. He was stationed at Great Falls and was a significant role in their swiftwater program at Fairfax. And to have his expertise come and now being able to pass that down to Jared, and Jared moving in the direction of assuming that role from his father, we're very fortunate local to have that resource. And they've done a lot for Warren County, bringing our swiftwater program where it is. Just that aspect alone. Both of them are pretty humble, but there's hundreds and hundreds of hours that go into making that happen. This simple call the other day is a very, very complex. We could only put 12 people on the scene. That same call in Fairfax, me and George were talking earlier, would have put 30 on that same call. So, you know, having them resources available to make that rescue even put us, and I don't want to use the words at risk, but we're not able to put everything we want to into that call. I would have liked to had both the boats in the water already. I would have liked to had multiple people downstream as backups in case they were swept off the log. As that incident operator, incident commander, as well, I would have liked to had people in the stations in case we had another call.
That's right. Things still go on. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
out here and all your resources are out here.
Life's still moving for
Still
everybody
moving
else.
forward. You mentioned tasking resources. What do you think the financial outlay something like that costs the county and fire department? Because I mean, it costs money to do this.
You know, I don't know what that dollar amount looks like on a daily operation. You know, we put 12 guys and, you know, millions of dollars of equipment moving to that call. The heavy squad that made access out there to that river that day, that unit alone is $1 million. You know, then 2 ambulances
Sure.
at $500,000 a piece.
The boats.
Boats that are $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. The gear that these guys wear is, you know, for that rescue,
Yeah.
and a lot of cost. A
Yeah.
lot of cost goes into
Well,
it.
I know training is just such a big thing, and most of this training is out of sight, out of mind as far as to the public. They really don't see what you go through, George. I mean,
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You got to look at the people that work here in the county, as adaptive and resourceful as they are. I mean, we're managing fire calls, structure fires, and all with 14 people.
yeah,
And that was the big culture shock for me when I came here from Fairfax County. My fire station alone, we had 8 people at the station, and countywide we only have 14 people here.
Yeah.
And so we get a structure fire, we get a technical rescue, and as the chief said, it depletes us. And that was probably the biggest obstacle for me when I came here, was getting used to.
doing more with less. I
Exactly.
think that's the American way now.
But I'll tell you, it's the guys that work for this county that are taking that load, and the great leadership that we have here. It's just, it's
And then
incredible.
you take a young man like firefighter Lewis, that not only does he have all his fire certifications, he's recently completed his medic of a couple hundred hours worth of training. He heads up, you know, he's a significant part of our swiftwater program, hundreds of hours a year. And there's literally hundreds and hundreds of hours for a multi-discipline like he does. I mean, we're very, very fortunate, like George said, to have the dedication we have out of the people to provide the level of service that we provide.
Yeah, I've used the fire department's medical services multiple times with my wife and my mother-in-law and everything. I was going to ask you, Jared, let's talk about that. What kind of training, what do we expect a medic to do in the fire department? Because I know, let me give you a little anecdote real quick. We called the 911, the fire department came, the medics, you know, the ambulance come, and, you know, we only live like a block from the hospital, right? And so they chewed out the medic because he didn't start the IV. I said, we got here before I could get it in her arm. So, but there's advantages living close to the hospital. But let's go back to the training. What, you started this off, what do we expect? Say I want to be a medic in the fire department.
So I started out as EMT basic. I obtained that when I was in high school. And then...
So you can start this early.
Yes. I started volunteering in the county when I was 15 years old.
Okay.
I made my transition to full-time, I believe it was 2018. I went full-time with the county, and then was given the opportunity to go get my paramedic. My paramedic took me probably about a year and a half, with a year of that just being nothing but classroom, clinical hours, and rotations, and then 6 months for my precepting to be a release medic here within our department.
So an EMT and a paramedic are two different things?
Yes, an EMT is your basic. Chief, you may step in whenever you can.
Put his splint on and stop the bleeding.
Yeah,
Well,
pretty
he
much.
he can lift the gurney up into the truck, right? Is that
I
what
don't
you're
want
saying?
to. I don't want to undermine our EMTs. They're critical to our role.
Oh, yeah.
One of the first things, I'm a medic as well. One of the first things I was taught in class is that paramedics save lives and EMTs save paramedics.
Yeah,
And there are a lot of calls that our EMTs handle that don't need ALS intervention.
right.
About 138 hours roughly to become an EMT. Add a couple hundred more of that to become a paramedic.
And sometimes it's just knowing what not to do.
Yeah, it is. And our paramedic program is really taken off. We've been really fortunate by the board supporting our ALS program with some pretty high dollar
You're
equipment.
throwing out some acronyms here. Tell us what that is. ALS?
ALS is Advanced Life Care.
Okay.
So, for instance, we just purchased ultrasound machines. If we get somebody in a traumatic accident and we think they have an abdominal bleed, we can take that ultrasound, scan that patient on the scene within a couple minutes, and that can determine where we're going to send that person.
Right.
So that couple minute transition on the scene of doing that ultrasound could tell me whether I'm sending this patient to Winchester, the level 2 trauma center, or whether they need to go to Fairfax or Charlottesville
Right.
for an extended stay.
Or can I move them?
Yes.
What's the, am I going to do more damage? Yeah.
And we recently acquired IV pumps for advanced medications, ventilators, all to provide a higher level of service for the citizens. And we do chest thoracotomies now. These guys are really advanced in what they can do for patient care.
Yeah. So when you're doing this, how do you feel about that? I mean, helping people like that.
I love it. That's why I want to progress with my career. I love being able to help the community I live in. Like I said, I got my EMT when I was in high school, and it's always been a goal for me to progress that way. I can provide that higher level of care for people.
Yeah. Well, I do know from speaking from personal experience that you're right. The level of care is top notch. I mean, you can see the training and the people just when they show up on the scene and how they conduct themselves and how the communication between each of the firefighters and the EMTs just work. I mean, if you just look back and you can watch it, it's like the little ants running around, but then when you look at each one, they all have a little task and they know exactly what they're doing. And I can't say enough good things about our fire department here. And that's about training. Training.
And we appreciate it. I mean, we strive every day, and we do morning briefs on how we're going to make it better every day. We have a conversation, and we do a meeting every morning about what we're going to do throughout the day and how that's going to benefit the citizens. Our goal is to make the best that we can every single day for everybody that comes to Warren County and lives in Warren County.
So what's the future here at Rivermont?
I think the future, the whole for Warren County is to continue to progress, continue to educate, and make it, the best possible system that it can be for the citizens as well as our providers. We're all about taking care of our own too. To find a young man Jared's age, and we have younger than Jared now, and these people are coming to work every day for somebody else and putting their life on the line for somebody else. Says a lot. We got very, very dedicated people. in what they do.
George, you want to add anything before we leave?
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud as hell of my son.
I wasn't going to say that. How proud are you,
I'm
George?
pretty proud. I remember back, I tried to get him to go to work for Fairfax County, and he said, I don't want to be in your shadow in Fairfax County. So now it's kind of like we're over here in Warren County, and I'm starting to fall under his shadow. So it's a good feeling. I'm very proud of him and what he's accomplished so far in his life. So
Yeah. So you're showing up the old man. Is that what you're doing, Jared?
No, not quite showing up. I think he's helped guide me to this part. And now it's my turn
Time for him to get out of the way, huh?
to set my own tracks.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we do appreciate everything you've done, and I'm sure the people you rescued are greatly appreciative of getting their little boy back. I mean, if your mama's sitting on the bank, you're petrified. You're definitely.
Can only imagine.
So, again, we really appreciate everything you've done, Jared, and you too, George, and hopefully we'll come back here soon and see some more things. Any last words here, Raymond?
I want to say that I'm pretty proud of them too. George has been a mentor of mine for 1994, give or take. I run into George. I had long hair, was a volunteer at the time myself.
you had a mullet.
20 some years ago, I was fortunate enough for him to take me under his wing in the Swiftwater program. And throughout my fire department career as well, he's been a mentor pushing me to get to where I am.
Yeah.
So I still feel that I'm honored to see both of them get to where they are.
A few more things he can teach you, right?
I always learn. He's got a lot to teach. He's got a few more years left in him.
Yeah. We appreciate, again, everything you guys do here. We can't really say enough good things about our county fire department. And again, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.